The Caribbean sun was setting when the sonar first pinged. It was May 2001, and the research vessel Ulysses was gliding over the Yucatan Channel, a stretch of water between Cuba and Mexico, its hull slicing through the gentle swells. On board, engineer Pauline Zalitzki and her husband, Paul Weinzweig, were not searching for lost cities. They were mapping the seafloor for a Cuban government project, hoping to find shipwrecks or geological features that might yield oil or gas. But what they found instead would ignite a firestorm of controversy, speculation, and wonder, a mystery that, to this day, remains unsolved. The sonar images were strange. At a depth of over 2,000 feet, the seafloor was supposed to be a monotonous plain of silt and rock. Instead, the screen flickered with geometric shapes, rectangles, straight lines, and what looked like massive symmetrical blocks. Pauline leaned in, her heart thudding. The formations were too regular, too precise, to be natural. She called Paul over, and together they watched as the sonar traced out what appeared to be a city, frozen in time, deep beneath the waves. The news spread quickly. Soon, the world's media was abuzz with talk of a lost city off the coast of Cuba. Some called it the Atlantis of the Caribbean. Others dismissed it as a trick of the light, a quirk of geology. But for those who saw the images, the question was inescapable. Could an ancient civilization have built a city here, only for it to vanish beneath the sea? The idea was intoxicating. For centuries, tales of lost civilizations had haunted the human imagination. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu. But these were myths, stories told around fires or written in the margins of ancient texts. Here, for the first time, was something tangible. Sonar images, hard data, a real place that could be explored, measured, and perhaps understood. But the mystery only deepened. The ruins lay at a depth of over half a mile, far deeper than any known ancient city. If they were man-made, they must have been built when sea levels were much lower, perhaps 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age. That would make them older than the pyramids of Egypt, older than Stonehenge, older even than the first cities of Mesopotamia. It would rewrite the story of human civilization. Pauline and Paul were not treasure hunters or conspiracy theorists. They were engineers, trained to be skeptical, methodical, precise. But as they pored over the data, they could not shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something extraordinary. They decided to return, this time with a remote-operated vehicle, ROV, equipped with cameras and lights. The descent was slow, the ROV's umbilical cord unspooling into the blackness. On the monitors, the world turned alien strange fish, drifting clouds of silt, the eerie silence of the deep. And then, suddenly, the lights caught something. A massive block of stone, perfectly rectangular, its edges sharp and clean. The camera panned, revealing more blocks, some stacked, some lying at odd angles, as if toppled by a great force. There were what looked like roads, intersections, even a pyramid-shaped structure rising from the seafloor. The images were grainy, distorted by the water in the distance, but they were enough. The story broke worldwide. The BBC, CNN, and National Geographic all ran features. The Cuban government invited international experts to investigate. The world held its breath. The academic world was divided. Some geologists argued that the formations were natural products of tectonic activity, underwater landslides, or the slow, grinding work of erosion. But others were not so sure. The regularity of the shapes, the apparent planning, the sheer scale of the site all suggested something more. Archaeologists pointed out that no known civilization had the technology to build at such depths or at such an early date. But what if there was a lost chapter in human history? What if, at the end of the last ice age, a sophisticated culture had flourished in the Caribbean, only to be swallowed by the rising seas? The idea was not as far-fetched as it seemed. Around the world, there were whispers of lost cities. Yonaguni in Japan, Dwarka in India, Bimini Road in the Bahamas. Could Cuba's underwater ruins be part of a global pattern, evidence of a forgotten age of giants and builders? As the debate raged, a new twist emerged. A retired Cuban naval officer, Captain Ernesto Menendez, came forward with a story. In the 1960s, during the height of the Cold War, Soviet submarines had mapped the seafloor around Cuba in search of places to hide their nuclear fleet. According to Menendez, the Soviets had discovered anomalous structures in the same aerostructures they believed to be ancient ruins. The data was classified, buried in the archives of Moscow, never released to the public. Pauline and Paul tried to follow the trail, reaching out to Russian contacts, digging through declassified files. What they found was tantalizing. References to Operation Poseidon, a secret project to study underwater anomalies in the Caribbean. The files hinted at sonar images, photographs, even samples brought up from the depths, but the key documents were missing, redacted, or lost. Was it possible that the Soviets had known about the ruins for decades? Had they found something so shocking that it had to be hidden from the world? Back on the Ulysses, the team collected samples fragments of stone, bits of coral, sediment. They sent them to labs in Canada, the US, and Europe. The results were confounding. Some samples were ancient, dating back over 10,000 years. Others were much younger, suggesting that the site had been disturbed, perhaps by earthquakes or underwater landslides. The stones themselves were a puzzle. Some appeared to be limestone, common in the region, but others were harder to classify, dense, fine-grained, with traces of tool marks. One block, when cleaned and examined under a microscope, showed what looked like a series of parallel grooves, as if cut by a saw or chisel. The evidence was maddeningly inconclusive. For every expert who saw the hand of nature, another saw the hand of man. The debate became a battleground between skeptics and believers, scientists and dreamers, the old guard and the new. For Pauline, the mystery was personal. She had grown up in the Soviet Union, a child of scientists, taught to question, to doubt, to seek the truth no matter where it led. Now, in the twilight of her career, she found herself drawn into a story that was bigger than any she had ever imagined. She began to study the myths and legends of the Caribbean, the stories of the Taino, the Arawak, the Maya. Many spoke of a great flood, a time when the sea rose and swallowed the land. Some told of a shining city, home to wise men and builders, lost beneath the waves. The parallels with Plato's Atlantis were uncanny. But there were other, darker stories of curses, of forbidden knowledge, of civilizations destroyed by their own hubris. Was the city beneath the sea a warning, a message from the past? In year 2004, a new expedition was launched, this time with better technology, high-definition cameras, advanced sonar, even a small submersible. The team descended into the abyss, their lights cutting through the darkness. What they saw was breathtaking. Massive blocks, some over 10 feet long, arranged in patterns that defied chance. Staircases, terraces, what looked like the remains of walls and columns. In one area, a row of stones formed a perfect right angle, as if marking the corner of a building. In another, a pyramid rose from the silt, its sides worn but unmistakable. The footage was shown at conferences, broadcast on television, debated in classrooms and online forums. Some called it the discovery of the century. Others called it a hoax, a fantasy, a mirage. But for those who saw it, the effect was electric. Here, in the silent depths, was a mystery that refused to be solved, a riddle that challenged everything we thought we knew about our past. For the team, the experience was transformative. They spoke of a sense of awe, of standing on the edge of the unknown. Some felt a connection to the people who might have built the city, a sense of kinship across the millennia. Others felt a chill, a sense of loss, as if the ruins were a tomb, a reminder of how fragile civilization can be. The world, too, was changed. The story of the Cuban ruins became a touchstone for debates about lost technology, ancient knowledge, and the limits of science. It inspired novels, documentaries, even video games. It drew in a new generation of explorers, Gen Z history buffs, true crime fans, students, and professors, all eager to solve the puzzle. And yet, the mystery endures. No definitive proof has been found, no inscriptions, no artifacts, no bones. The site remains unexplored, its secrets locked away by depth, politics, and the passage of time. But perhaps that is the point. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to inspire, to provoke, to remind us that the world is bigger, stranger, and more wondrous than we can imagine. As the sun sets over the Caribbean, the Ulysses drifts on the waves, its lights fading into the night. Beneath the surface, the city sleeps, waiting for the day when someone will return, and the story will begin again. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. What do you think lies beneath the waves off Cuba? Lost civilization, natural wonder, or something else entirely? Let us know in the comments, and remember, history is full of secrets, just waiting to be discovered.